Good morning from a very sunny Lancing Beach here on the south coast this morning. Got down here just after 6 a.m, so not many people around, and we're going to do a run up towards Shoreham. Not sure how far that's going to be, but hoping for about 10k up there and back. This morning we're going to focus on a topic which I mentioned yesterday in my video from Park Run, where we're going to talk about self-appreciation, self-love, and just some of the things that people get caught up in day-to-day life, where it becomes very difficult to see how privileged we are as a nation of people, especially in the West. So we're going to talk a bit about that, some of the things I've learned, and tell you some of the challenges I've had with it, actually, because this is certainly a topic which I don't find easy to come by. So we'll talk about that as we go and see how we get on. So let's go. So where do you start on a topic like this? Well, it makes sense for me to tell you a little bit about how low self-esteem and low self-worth has affected me over the years. Because to be honest, I've spent almost my entire life too worried about what people thought about me, other people's perception of me, and how I compared to the rest of the world, forgetting the fact that everybody is unique. I, like you, are only one of a kind. And there's been 100 billion people on this earth, we understand, and there's not been anyone that's you. So you're unique. You don't need to compare yourself to anybody else. But it does become very easy to forget how privileged we are. Because our lives are easy, and I say easy, and I respect everybody's, circumstances are different. But our lives are easy compared to how generations before us have lived. And it's funny, with me, because I suffered with these feelings of low self-worth, it actually led on to, or at least contributed to, some of the other things I've talked about on this channel. The drinking, because you don't like the way that you look or the way that you compare to other people. You don't like the amount of pressure that you're under work. These kinds of things all stack up, right? Everything kind of interlinks with each other, and it's so important to break things down, to understand why it is that you feel certain ways, and to take time to reflect on what makes you feel the way that you feel, and especially if you're unhappy. And a great quote that I heard, I'm sure that other people have said it before, but by Jimmy Carr, the comedian, where he talked about how we're almost at a point where the world is almost got life dysmorphia. I think everyone's heard of body dysmorphia, but he's talking about life dysmorphia, where people become so obsessed by what they don't have or how they compare to the rest of the world, they forget about how privileged we are as people. Only 50 years ago, people had never had a warm shower. All of the things that we take for granted, the fact that you're even watching this video and you have an internet connection, right? That has only happened in the last sort of 20 years that we could even do that. So all these things that we have, that we just don't realize how privileged we are, and especially to live now. We don't have to go through war, or at least in this country we don't have to go through war. And some of the choices that we have, the fact that we, it sounds cliche, but the fact that we've got toilets and things, that's not the case for everybody, and it certainly hasn't been the case for everybody. But the problem is that we're promoted through adverts, through messaging in the news, to just be so focused on the bad things that we forget about all of the good things. And I'm saying this and sound like I'm preaching, but the reality is that I've suffered from that for such a long time. And everything started to change for me 3 years ago when I had my health scare. And I know I've talked a bit about that on the channel already, but doing a lot of self-reflecting, a lot of thinking and processing about the way that I thought about myself, and a lot of the self-sabotage that I was doing to myself at the time, I came across a quote, and I love this quote. I don't take any credit for it. Oh my God, there's a guy going past on this really cool little thing. You'll see. Cool. Yeah, coming back to that. So, doing a lot of processing, a lot of thinking about myself and just looking at the areas that I was self-sabotaging, I came across this quote, which goes that your life only really begins when you realise that you've only got one. And that is so true. And my brother actually has gone through something similar. He been through cancer and coming out the back of cancer. And this time last year he was in hospital having treatment and, says that he didn't think he was ever going to come out of hospital. And, really, again, went through a period of self-reflection and looking at his life and the way that he's lived his life. And out the back of that has come a lot of really positive changes. And it's been great to see over the last couple of weeks. He's been out, hiking on the South Downs, doing 10, 11 miles, and out cycling on his bike, which was something that he was desperate to get back to. And these little things that I think that we all take for granted when life's in inverted commas easy, and we just focus on those bad things, it becomes so easy to forget about all of the privileges that we have as people. So that's something that I'm really, really, really strongly advocating to people, is really taking time to understand that we're all one of a kind. We're all, on this earth as individuals, and our circumstances are different. And, spending your whole time comparing yourself against other people, what they have, what they don't have, how you compare, what job you've got compared to them, how challenging that your life is, how much money you earn, all of those things are just going to completely rob you of all of the joy of life, all of the little things that you should be focused on, and the fact that you are unique as a person. I'm sure many of you have heard of Professor Brian Cox, the basically David Attenborough of space and the universe. And I love some of the quotes that he comes out with about the universe and our place in it. And he talks about essentially the chances of humans and other races existing, and talked about basically the chance that another civilization could exist, and the chances that we even exist are 1 in 10 to the power of something like 2700,000. Now, I'm not a mathematician, right? So I can't put that into perspective, that number. So let me put it this way. Our chances of existing are 1 in 10, followed by 2.7 million zeros after the 10. That is the chances of our civilization existing in the universe. Now, that sort of number is mental. That is 1 in something like 10 trillion billion. And those sort of numbers we can't comprehend, right? But what that does tell you is, holy crap, we are so, so lucky to even exist. And it's things like that that get you thinking about just how privileged we are to even be here. Hundreds of these little snails over this broad walk here, and I'm doing my best to dodge them, but there's so many of them, and you can definitely see that other people have stepped on them, unfortunately. So we've done 5k so far, and there's a little bit further to go before we turn around, so we will end up doing about 10k, which is perfect. That'll take me up to about 37 miles for the week, which is exactly where I want to be for my weekly mileage. Anyway, coming back to topic. So you've heard about how unique we are. You've heard about how comparison is the thief of all joy. But I'd appreciate that it's just me saying it. It's easy to say. But as somebody that's been through this, and somebody that, I'm not going to lie, I still struggle with it, right? I still, think about myself at times like the person that I used to be, the bad habits that I had, the toxic traits, the way that I thought about myself in terms of, body image and things like that. I still find myself sometimes slipping back into that, and it's an easy thing to do. So it's really important that if you do start to feel yourself feeling like that way, you stop and take time to process and take time to think. And one of the really, really good bits of advice that I heard was, if you are struggling with this and you are struggling with just generally how your life's going and it's not happening as you perhaps would like or the way that you think it should be, then write down all of the things that you're unhappy with, all of the things that you don't like, and then cross out anything that you're not in control of, and then focus on all of the rest of the things. And all of the things that you are in control of means that they're things that you can do something about. And if you focus on them things, then everything else that you're not in control with will start to look a lot less daunting, a lot less worrying, and actually a lot of those things will just fix themselves. So this is Shoreham Fort, which, to be honest, I don't know an awful lot about the history of, so I can't really tell you any cool and interesting facts about it. But I'm sure it was part of the sea defences as part of the World War here on the south coast. But it's pretty cool. You can have a look around. You can't actually go in there, I don't believe, because it's private property, but you can get up close and have a little look at it. And yeah, it's a nice thing to see if you're here in Shoreham. Okay, so what can we do about it if we're feeling a bit this way? And I mentioned this actually in my first running style video back on the channel a few months ago, but you have to make some very wise but sometimes difficult choices. And one of the first ones is to look at your circle of influence. If you want to be somebody that's positive and radiates all the good things, then you can't allow yourself to spend time with people that take your energy. I call them energy vampires. But people that always look on the dark side of life, people that their glass is always half empty, those people will spend their time stealing your energy and leaving you with nothing. And I know it's difficult, but if your circle of influence contains those types of people, then it's always going to reflect on you. So unfortunately, you have to make some difficult decisions and difficult choices. But if you're serious about becoming somebody that makes the most of life, somebody that enjoys and appreciates the time that we have on this earth, and it's a very short amount of time, then it's important that you hang about with people that also radiate positive vibes back to you. So it can be challenging, right? Don't get me wrong, I know it's not easy to make these kinds of choices, but they're essential. So have a look at your circle of influence, and if there's people in there that really just take from you and don't offer anything back, and after spending time with them you feel drained and sapped of life, then I'm afraid they've got to go. You've got to get them out of your life, and you can do that in such ways that you remain respectful, but you've got to, protect yourself, protect your energy, and protect your positivity. And people like that, and they don't even always know it, will take. And there's not enough time, and we're not here long enough to spend time letting people take from us. The next thing that I'm a strong believer in, and this is much more personal choice, I guess, but I'm a strong believer that you should avoid the news. Now, I don't want to sound arrogant to what's going on in the world, but if you think about your daily routine, you wake up, put the radio on or the TV, and generally it's the news. And you tell me the last time you did that and it started with anything good. And I know it's current affairs, but it's all bad news, bad news, bad news. So what I made a decision to do was to intentionally not do that anymore. Because who wants to start the day in a negative mood? Who wants to start the day with bad news? So I found something else to do. running every morning to get my day started in a really different way. Now, I know that's not for everybody, but I can say that nearly 3 years into avoiding the news, now, if there's anything I do want to know about, I'll search for it. You know, again, going back to that privilege, you know, we've got internet. We've got the ability to find things out whenever we want. So that's what I do. If there's something that I need to know about, something of interest, then I'll look it up. I'm not starting my day listening to the news and being told how, you know, the world is going to pot and how bad everything is. Because you've then got the rest of your day, and that's the mind frame that you're in. So if it's for you or not, that's up to you to decide. But I will say that for me, it's worked. And if you can find something else to do in the morning to get your day started constructively, then I would recommend doing it, because it's way, way better than watching the news. So the third factor I focused on as part of me addressing some of the challenges that I've got around self-worth is a focus on discipline. And I know I talked about discipline in one of my videos a week or so ago, but you have to get to a point where you want to change so much that you're prepared to do anything in order to make it happen. So that's where discipline comes in, because everyone can be motivated for a little while, but it's the people that can learn discipline in their life to create habits and habit stack that really see the results. And that's exactly what I've done, and that's exactly why I'm on day 66 of my running streak right now. Is, for me, I've created non-negotiables, things that I will do every single day, barring injury and barring illness. And there is no excuses. There's no reasons why you can't do things. And that comes back to this kind of notion of writing everything down that you can do something about. I used to really hate the way I looked. I used to hate myself inside and out at times. And a lot of that stemmed from the way I look and some things that I could do something about, but some that I couldn't, right? So that writing down things that you can address. And that's what I did. I took time to look at what I could fix, what I could change, wrote that list down and focused on that list. And, you know, being overweight as I was, although I carried it pretty well, a lot of people say to me, no, you weren't really that big or whatever. That's true, but I wasn't happy. And now I've done something about it. Now I'm 20 kilos lighter than I was, running every day, doing 35, 40 miles a week. And I'm not saying that to boast, I'm saying that because that's what discipline has created. That's what this stronger mindset that I've got has allowed me to do. So if I can give you, as I say, 3 pieces of advice, is, again, avoid energy vampires. Be very careful about who you let into your circle of influence. Avoid the news if you can, and if that's right for you. But probably the most important thing is create discipline. Figure out what it is you want to achieve and go after it. So you probably know by now I like giving book recommendations. And there's another great book that is really relevant to what I've been talking about today, which is called The Mountain Is You. And I'll put a link up to the book, and I apologise, I can't remember the lady author's name. But it's all about self-sabotage and gives you some techniques to think about ways that you can, you know, stop that. And I found that, again, really, really useful, because it gives you a chance to reflect on some of the things that you might not even really know that you do, some of the things that you may not even be aware of, and gives you, you know, techniques and ways to, you know, not only self-reflect and identify it, but then ways to tackle it as well. And I found that book super useful, and I think you will too. So I'll link it up here, and give it a read if you haven't already. I think it'll be really helpful. Okay, so I know very well that just you listening to me rabble on my channel is not going to fix anything for you. And it's not intended to fix anything for you. It's intended to give you some ideas about things that you can think about in your life. Because the only person that actually can do anything about you is you. There's no easy fix. There's no easy work to get where you want to get to, and especially when it comes to, you know, your dreams and your aspirations. That is just you that can do it, and you're the one who decides whether you get there or not. But you've got to be willing to put the work in. So, you know, please don't get me wrong. Please don't think that I'm saying these things because I think that you're going to listen to me and everything's fixed. Far from it. It's just giving you some food for thought, if I can say that correctly. Food for thought. And some of the things that's helped me, right? Some of the things that has made a difference, because I am, for all intents and purposes, an absolutely different person to who I used to be. And this is not, you know, an Instagram version of me. I'm actually showing you real me. And I'm super comfortable now with, you know, letting people in and having that vulnerability that I don't feel like I need to create a different version of me anymore. So, you know, please don't think that I'm trying to preach, because I'm not. I'm just trying to give you some advice. And if you take it or not is, of course, up to you. But what I can tell you is that if you don't do something about it, nothing will change, and you'll just continue to be unhappy, and you'll continue to feel that life is passing you by, which none of us can afford. So go get it, go make it happen, and do something about it. Okay, so we did just over 7 miles, pretty much on the dot. Really low impact today, enjoyable base run along the seafront here. Almost no elevation all the way, so very, very easy on the legs. But I hope today has been a little bit useful. I think the key messages for me to get across is that we are super lucky to be here, so privileged to be on this earth, and we are one of a kind. So try not to focus on too much what other people are doing and focus more on yourself. If there's things that you don't like about yourself, then write them down. Anything that you have the opportunity to change, make it happen. And ultimately, focus on all the things that make you great rather than the things that concern you about other people. And ultimately, it's all down to you. You know, everything that you want to achieve really is down to you. And you're the only one that can make it happen. No one's going to do it for you. So create discipline, go after your dreams, and you'll get there. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for sticking around as long as you have. On holiday next week, off to Mallorca with the family, so might be a little while till we make the next video. But once we do, then I'll see you again on the next one.